Here is Chief Meteorologist Chase Jones.
Well, we're taking you from lunchtime where that cloud cover breaks up, then it steadily makes its way through, and last night some pretty impressive storms, but pretty relaxing as it sort of drifted us off towards bed, and we're going to see more of these gentle thunderstorms making their way throughout the rest of the week. I told you last week it was going to be pretty severe, but as these typical models update in West Texas fashion, it's starting to die down. Take a good look at temperatures over the last 24 hours, giving us a hard time last night where we thought more intense thunderstorms would make their way through, and definitely did not show up. All the way down into those 60s, fighting back and forth with those 70s, leveling out in those lower 60s. Then you see that gradual but shaky warm up as we get into those mid 80s, and by tonight dropping back down into those 60s with some of that light rain making its way in from the west. I promise you it's going to be the exact same thing I said yesterday because we are locked in this pattern. 85 in San Angelo, everybody else in a combination of those upper 70s, lower 80s with the cloud cover making its way in. Seeing some of those cooler temperatures off towards the southwest, 76 down there in Ozona, 86 way up there in Coleman, looking like that 10 degrees spread across the entire Concho Valley, unless you want to count Mertzen over there off towards Junction, 11 degrees, but not in the distance that we want, but at least we have that 10 degrees. When we look at the moisture values, been going strong all week. We're inside the severe weather atmospheric sweet spot with them in those 60s, while dew points or humidity indices are up there in those 50s, way off towards the south, up into those 70s. So you definitely know where our attention is pointed, off towards the west, down towards the south, and up towards the northeast, but nowhere inside of Tom Green County. So when we look at the moisture tracker, keeping our eye on the cusp or the hook that's going to be around the Concho Valley with these concentrations of blues. As the model updates, it gets more and more disrespectful about how much it's going to circulate around us. You can even see it right there in the shape of a C. When we look at the upper level pattern, keeping our eye on this strong, long wave trough that cuts off the west coast. You know that means severe weather as it barrels across the four corners. Finally, maybe some rain finally fills and becomes a long wave trough, but as we get closer towards the weekend, this one around the four corners would cut off again. That's going to lift a whole bunch of moisture up from the tropics across the Concho Valley, and more rain on the way. That includes by next week, so all the way into the beginning of May. And you know how severe it gets when we get towards May. Water vapor imagery showing you how the storm from last night is pushing out of the area, but you can see how strong these winds are behind it. It's lifting all that moisture up into the Rockies across Colorado and Wyoming, while it keeps everything trapped down towards the south across sort of the Big Bend region and off towards Louisiana. So beautiful skies all the way out and towards Dallas. Now, when we take you into the severe weather outlook, it's us again today, but we're right on the edge. So that's exactly where we're keeping our eye for some of that steam kettle action we talked about yesterday, Zach. When we look at the hail probability, we're still at 5%, but expecting some of that heavier hail off towards the west. You know how those things sort of like to throw the hail all the way over here into the Concho Valley. Take you down to the surface at the satellite. We're looking at some of that low cloud cover making its way in, but you see off the west coast, Zach, steam kettle. When we take you into the futurecast, or at least the radar for now, we're seeing some of that high cloud cover making its way in with a severe thunderstorm watch way outside the Concho Valley. But the futurecast now is going to show you how it's sort of, I'm going to fast forward this one for you guys, because you know there are waves of thunderstorms making their way through, going to be gentle, going to lull you off to sleep. I promise you by the KSAN news at 10, I'm fighting back and forth with some of this gentle, relaxing rain. I promise you that's the spring we want. This pushes all the way out and towards the weekend, and by Saturday around lunch, I run out of data, but you saw the waves and waves of evening thunderstorms. That's exactly what we're going to see throughout the rest of April. So tonight, all the way down into those 60s. It's going to be beautiful tonight with that gentle rain making its way in. Then tomorrow, it's going to be beautiful with that gentle rain making its all the way in. It's going to carry us all the way towards the weekend, so make some good plans, but keep the extra layer close, if not the umbrella, staying in those 80s throughout the rest of the week. And as we get closer towards the last week of April, a good warm up and then a sharp cool down. Could see some severe weather by next Wednesday with those overnight lows just staying in those 60s. Stay tuned. While more of the break. You're watching KSAN News at 5.